Court has reserved judgment now on an application filed by the EFF challenging Parliament's decision not to proceed with an impeachment inquiry into President Cyril Ramaphosa's Phala-Phala farm scandal. A Section 89 panel headed by former Chief Justice Sandile Ngobo found that Ramaphosa had a prima facie case to answer for after he failed to report the theft of millions in foreign currency at his Phala-Phala farm. However, the ANC used its then majority in Parliament to vote against that report, and there was no impeachment inquiry.
I mean, this is what the ANC has been doing for the longest of times. The ANC is known for protecting the ANC president. It doesn't matter what Jacob Zuma would do, the ANC would go to Parliament to protect Jacob Zuma. It doesn't matter what Ramaphosa would do, the ANC would go to Parliament and abuse their majority to protect the president. And I guess this is the reason why this case, it is so frustrating to average South Africans, because average South Africans are looking at the likes of President Ramaphosa and all of these people in government and how these people are living their lives as if they are above the law. And in this country, we know that nobody is above the law. So why is the president of the country actually acting like he's above the law? You know, this issue of Phala-Phala, people would say that the president was actually found with millions of foreign currency stashed in his farm. The president actually failed to report that money was stolen in his farm, but there was no accountability for the president. What would happen if an average South African would be found with millions stashed in their home? Of course, he would be thrown to jail. Of course, he would be dragged to the courts because he actually has a case to answer for. So why is the president actually not answering for something that it is so blatant? Why is the president behaving like he's above the law? This is why this case would not actually go away, because people hate the fact that the likes of Ramaphosa are living their lives as if they are above the law. Ramaphosa is not above the law. Nobody in this country is above the law. And the ANC is disgusting for actually using and abusing their majority throughout the years to actually protect nonsense. So now that the ANC no longer has the majority in government, I think this is the perfect time for this issue of Phala-Phala to actually come back. Nicely done by the EFF and the ATM.
Our reporter Maloko Maloto joins us now for more. Maloko, there were many players in this court case. Tell us about some of the arguments today.
Good evening, Francis Head. Well, the Constitutional Hill, the seat of the Apex Court in Braamfontein, was today a hive of activity. Outside, we saw throngs of EFF supporters who marched from the Mary Fitzgerald Square, assembling outside the court as the court was in session. Inside the Constitutional Court itself, there was a festival of arguments and counter-arguments. Why, you ask? This is about a matter brought to the Constitutional Court by the economic freedom fighters, the affidavit signed by the party leader, Mr. Julius Malema. Essentially, he is saying that the December 13, 2022 decision by the 6th Parliament, specifically the National Assembly, to reject the Section 89 independent panel report that had been compiled by former Chief Justice Sandile Ngobo, who had been appointed by the Speaker of the National Assembly to do a fact-finding mission on the role of the President in this whole Phala-Phala debacle.
Okay, this is an advert, guys. And the other political party that I'm thinking about, it is the DA. I wonder how the DA is going to act to this matter of Phala-Phala right now. I mean, you remember when the GNU was formed, the DA came out to say that we are not going to vote with any political party that is going to pose a motion of no confidence on President Ramaphosa because of this matter of Phala-Phala, because we have literally voted for Ramaphosa to be the president of the country. So the DA is actually not going to act on this matter of Phala-Phala, despite the DA being one of the political parties that actually wanted the FBI to come to investigate this matter of Phala-Phala, because they believed so much that the President Ramaphosa actually had a case to answer for. But as soon as they got into governance with the same ANC, the DA said, no, this matter of Phala-Phala, it is not an agent matter. We are going to, we will see and we will look in this matter if new evidence actually arises. But after the GNU was formed, Ramaphosa and the ANC, they backstabbed the DA so much that now I'm thinking, what is the DA actually going to do? What is the DA going to do? Because I don't think the DA is still holding the same position that we are not going to do anything about this matter of Phala-Phala. I think the DA right now, they look at Ramaphosa and they say that this man has betrayed us so much. Now that the matter of Phala-Phala is back, what is the Democratic Alliance going to do? What is the Democratic Alliance going to do? Because they can say that, okay, we are not going to do anything because we want to protect the government of national unity. But at the same time, the ANC in 2027 is going to the conference, and chances are Ramaphosa is going to be thrown away. Chances are Ramaphosa is not going to be the president of the ANC anymore. And the ANC, we know that it is divided, especially about this matter of them working with the DA. So chances are, the ANC after 2027, they will say that we no longer want this GNU with the DA. So the DA would actually be thrown away. So the ANC has already shown the DA that they don't want to work with the DA. The ANC has already shown the DA that they don't respect the DA. That's why they come up with issues like the Bella Bill. That's why they signed the Bella Bills into law, despite the DA screaming and shouting that please do not sign the Bella Bill. That's why the ANC would actually sign the NHI into law, despite the DA screaming and shouting that please do not sign the NHI into law. So I'm just wondering, how is the DA actually going to respond this time around now that the Phala-Phala matter is back? I'm thinking that maybe this is something that even the DA themselves, they are thinking about it, that guys, now Ramaphosa is vulnerable. And this is a man that has actually abused the DA ever since the government of national unity has been formed. This is a man that has attacked the DA at every single turn. Ever since the government of national unity was formed, the ANC has actually shown us that they don't care about the DA, despite the DA being a political party that actually voted for the ANC to have a presidency in power. As soon as they got their power, they got rid of the DA, just like what happened in Johannesburg. The DA actually voted for Panyaza Lesufi to be the premier of Gauteng, and after the DA has voted for Panyaza Lesufi to be the premier of Gauteng, what did Panyaza Lesufi do? He sidelined the DA in all the major cities. So maybe I'm thinking that these are things that the DA is actually thinking about, especially now that President Ramaphosa is vulnerable. And I am just wondering, what is the DA going to do this time around? What are they going to do this time around? Are they still going to hold the same position that the Phala-Phala matter is not an important issue? Or are they going to say, okay, this is an important issue and maybe we think that the president should actually be held accountable, since these people have shown to us that they don't care about us? I'm just curious about what the Democratic Alliance is actually thinking. I'm just curious. I'm deadly curious. Because someone bitter like me, I'm so bitter, man. I would actually, I don't know, I would actually push for Ramaphosa to actually be punished with this matter of Phala-Phala. I would actually push for Ramaphosa to be punished. I mean, like, I liked Ramaphosa after the GNU was formed. I liked Ramaphosa, especially after his inauguration. His inauguration speech was actually so cool, because President Ramaphosa, unlike the presidents of liberation movements throughout Africa, he actually stood there and actually acknowledged that the ANC has lost the elections. The ANC is going to listen to the people of this country when the people of this country say that the ANC can no longer govern the country alone. The ANC has actually failed to govern the country alone. This is the reason why the ANC would actually go into governance with other political parties. You see, then I actually applauded Ramaphosa and said, man, Ramaphosa actually protected the democracy of this country, because normally when the liberation movements actually lose power, the whole country becomes chaos. But Ramaphosa said, no, this is not going to happen, not under me. So we are going to form the government of national unity. They formed the government of national unity. They gave the DA those ministers. They gave other political parties ministers. But the same Ramaphosa, he came up and made up other ministerial positions. And the ANC still has majority of the ministers despite losing the elections. The ANC still have a lot of ministers despite losing the elections. The ANC are still running the country as if they didn't lose the elections. Just look with what happened in Gauteng with Panyaza Lesufi. Panyaza Lesufi is still running Gauteng as if the ANC has won the elections. And this is when I said, whoa, these people actually took the whole country for a fool. They knew exactly what they were doing. Ramaphosa knew exactly what they were doing. I mean, the DA was also shocked to learn that President Ramaphosa came up and made up other ministerial positions so that the ANC members can still eat. Ramaphosa broke other ministerial positions that they can be two positions. So one ministerial position, maybe that was held by one person. They broke that into half. Now we have two ministers from the ANC. The DA was also shocked that Ramaphosa also came up with other ministerial positions so that the ANC can still hold the. So now the ANC is governing the country as if they have won the elections, but these people have actually lost the elections. They have actually lost the elections, and this is when I said, man, the ANC actually have to be stopped. The ANC have to be stopped, and the DA, they know that we have been backstabbed. We don't know for how long. If the DA knew that these are number of ministers that the ANC would have, maybe the DA would say, no, we are not happy with these 6 or 7 ministers. No, we are not happy with that. We need like 12 because you people are coming up with other ministers. But the ANC, but Ramaphosa did not tell the DA that he's going to do such a thing. The DA found out when Ramaphosa was announcing how his cabinet was going to be like, and everybody was shocked. Everybody was going to be shocked. Like, with so many ministers, the political party that has lost the elections still has so many ministers. This is a shock. This is a shock. This is a shock. They signed that understanding with ANC and the DA. And the deal was that they are going to form the government of national unity, but now that the ANC and the DA are the ones that actually has a lot of majority with the IFP, if the ANC wanted to bring another political party into fold, the ANC would actually have to go and consult with the DA and IFP and tell them that, guys, such and such political party actually wanted to join the government of national unity. They would actually discuss and actually come to a consensus. But Ramaphosa, after he formed the government of national unity with the DA, after he secured the 20% of the DA, he invited thousands of political parties into the government of national unity so that they can dilute the power of the DA. This thing happened in front of our eyes. We saw this thing actually happening right in front of our eyes. President Ramaphosa diluting the power of the DA right in front of our eyes. And he said that, no, that deal is supposed to kick in once the cabinet has been announced. This was the excuse of the ANC, saying that no, the DA, it is just exaggerating, because I remember Helen Zille was all over television saying that the ANC cannot invite other political parties without speaking with the DA, and the ANC came out and said no, that clause is kicking in after Ramaphosa has announced his cabinet. So Ramaphosa took so long to announce his cabinet, and at the same time the ANC was busy staking political parties in the government of national unity. Before you even know it, the power of the DA was actually diluted in the government of national unity. So these are things that the DA should actually think about. Now that Ramaphosa is vulnerable, the DA should actually think about all of these things. It can't be us. We cannot sit here and think about these things alone. The DA actually should think about what they are going to do now that Ramaphosa is vulnerable.
Mr. Malema is saying for the National Assembly to reject that particular report, it actually acted irrationally and unlawfully. Essentially, he is arguing that the African National Congress, which at the time had the majority of seats in Parliament, essentially abused its majority. And he wants the Constitutional Court, one, to declare that particular decision of the National Assembly unlawful and set it aside. And he's also saying he would want the Constitutional Court to instruct the 7th Parliament to now go back and vote. The nub of the argument essentially is that they are saying that particular report by the panel that was headed by former Chief Justice Sandile Ngcobo stands, because we all know that the President Cyril Ramaphosa at some point attempted to have it reviewed, but he didn't succeed, and he said he would leave that particular matter for now. And as matter stand, that particular report stands. Now, the issue is that the EFF is arguing that Parliament, while it had kind of like contracted, if you like, the services of that panel, what it should have done was to take that report to a committee, an impeachment committee that would have consisted of various political parties represented in Parliament, for that impeachment committee to do an in-depth investigation wherein we were going to see the President himself personally being hauled before that particular committee, and it would summon even some of the people who would matter, and as a result come up with a decision or a determination that would then be forwarded to the National Assembly for the plenary of the National Assembly to vote whether they reject.
I mean, shout out to the DA and shout out to the DA and ATM, man. The DA and the ATM, man. Vio Zungula has actually done a wonderful job, especially when it comes to this issue of Phala-Phala. Vio Zungula has done a wonderful job because he has been very consistent. The EFF has been very consistent about holding the president accountable. They have been very consistent, and I think the DA actually saying that this matter of Phala-Phala, it is not an Asian matter, or we are not going to focus so much on this issue of Phala-Phala. It actually did something to the credibility of the DA, because people are looking at the DA and saying that you guys were making so much noise about this issue of Phala-Phala. Now that you are in government, you no longer say anything about this issue of Phala-Phala. What does it say about the credibility of the DA? So the DA is a political party that has actually formed itself, and that is actually known for actually holding people accountable. When they come out to say that, no, we are not going to hold Ramaphosa accountable on this matter of Phala-Phala, it actually does something to the credibility of the DA. It does. It does something to the credibility of the DA. It does something. Because the DA managed to convince its supporters that, guys, we need to get into governance with the ANC, so that the ANC cannot get into governance with political parties like Umkhonto we Sizwe and the EFF. You remember this was their slogan into the elections, that we need to stop the Doomsday Coalition. We need to stop the Doomsday Coalition. But stopping that Doomsday Coalition, it happened at the expense of the DA, because the DA had to protect Ramaphosa with Phala-Phala. It happened at the expense of the DA. And after the DA has protected Ramaphosa with Phala-Phala, Ramaphosa, when I remember Ramaphosa was doing the press conference the other day, and he said that the door is still open for the EFF and Umkhonto we Sizwe. So can you just imagine a political party that worked so hard that Umkhonto we Sizwe and the EFF cannot be in governance? The president of the ANC says that no, the ANC is opening the door for Umkhonto we Sizwe and the EFF. So Ramaphosa has shown that he doesn't care. He doesn't care about his partners in the government of national unity. The ANC does not give a damn about a single political party in the government of national unity. I mean, look at Patriotic Alliance. Patriotic Alliance, it is a political party that used to make a lot of noise about the illegal immigrants that are coming into the country and how the ANC is actually allowing the borders to actually be opened. And now these people that are getting into the country illegally, they are starting to harm South Africans and committing heinous crimes. But you have Gayton McKenzie as the Minister of Sports, Art and Culture, and for some reason the Patriotic Alliance is no longer there. The messaging, that hard messaging of protecting South African borders is no longer there. It's no longer there. So I think even us as South Africans, man, we really have to think about this GNU. Was it really worth it? Because even the people that tried to hold the ANC accountable, they are now forming alliances with the ANC. And I remember these are some of the warnings that some of the supporters of the DA, they were actually giving, that the ANC is going to corrupt the DA. The ANC is going to do something so big that the DA is going to protect them, and people are going to say, nah, the DA, you don't have a credibility when it comes to corruption because you actually protected a corrupt president. And they are not wrong. And they are not wrong. People were actually worried about these political parties that are going to get into governance with the ANC and saying the ANC is going to corrupt these political parties. And it happens right in front of our faces. It happened right in front of our faces. So now, as we speak, there is not a single political party that is holding the ANC accountable. Why? You look at the DA is working with the ANC in GNU. They are focused on their ministers. They are focused on 2026. I'm thinking that maybe they are also focused on 2026 to say that, guys, this is what we have done since we've gotten into governance. So we need you guys to actually vote for the DA. The political parties that are in the government of national unity, they are not holding the ANC accountable. And you look at the Progressive Caucus. The Progressive Caucus is fighting amongst itself. The EFF and the Umkhonto we Sizwe, they are busy fighting with each other. So now the ANC is cruising. The ANC is cruising because normally the political parties that would hold the ANC accountable, they are fine now that they got ministerial positions. And the other political parties that were supposed to be in the oppositions, they are fighting with each other. So nobody is actually paying attention to the ANC. So the ANC is happy because they are cruising right now. They are happy because they are cruising. It's almost as if they are not in the government of national unity. It's almost as if we don't have opposition parties in this country. We just have an ANC governing this country unchecked. This is what is happening right now. They are governing the country unchecked. They are governing the country unchecked.
Or they take a decision to impeach the president. They said the president might have committed serious misconduct. Now, if you read Section 89 of the Constitution, those two actually are grounds for the president to be impeached, and the implications are that if two-thirds majority members of the National Assembly were to vote to say the president is impeached, he will lose all the lifetime benefits that former presidents are getting, including lifetime salaries and lifetime protection. Now, we are not there, obviously. Parliament has not voted to impeach or not to impeach the president because that process was actually curtailed at the level where the National Assembly has said that it is rejecting those that particular report because it said it was fundamentally flawed. But let's listen to a lawyer representing the economic freedom fighters.
What we're really here about today is something actually very simple. The EFF submits that over 10 million rand hidden in a couch is as problematic and controversial for a president as benefiting from unlawful upgrades to his residence in northern KwaZulu-Natal. And so, having regard to this court's judgment in EFF 2, the submission is really simple before the court, with all due respect. The first one, and these are the broad overarching submissions we say the court needs to concern itself as we go through the various issues that will be contested between the parties.
I'm sorry, guys, it is not my fault. ENCA is busy playing the adverts, so it is not my fault. It is not my fault. If you want to scream, please scream at the ENCA. They are the ones that are playing the adverts after every 2 minutes. I don't know why they are doing this, but it is fine. it is fine. But the idea of the president not being held accountable, after so much money, foreign currency was actually found in his farm. Some of it was actually stolen, and the fact that he failed to report that money was actually stolen, of course he has a case to answer to. Of course he has a case to answer to. And I'm wondering, guys, is it possible, like, what's going to happen with the public protector? Because you remember the public protector, as soon as she got in office, she said that the president was innocent. She said the president was innocent. The public protector said the president was innocent. That's the first thing that she said when she got in office, that no, the president is innocent. The president does not have to answer for anything. And people were saying, whose money is that? Whose money is that? And the president was saying, no, that money belongs to Hazim Mustafa. The guy bought livestock. But for some reason, he didn't come to collect that livestock. So the guy just came to South Africa to drop millions of dollars and to leave without even collecting whatever that he was going to buy. And for some reason, South Africans are supposed to believe that the president actually has nothing to answer for. It is a shame, man. It is a shame. It is a shame. You see this case of Phala-Phala, it has the president standing there naked, vulnerable, naked. It has him naked. Because you don't even have to be the expert in law to actually see exactly what is happening. You don't have to be an expert in law. You just have to apply your common sense. And you can see that, Ramaphosa, come on, man. You owe us some answers. Come on.
It's whether or not the reasons offered by the National Assembly when it voted down the independent panel's report withstands legal scrutiny. Now, what has happened in this matter is there have been two bundles of reasons that have been advanced before this court. The first bundle of reasons are those reasons that were given at the time by then Minister of Justice, Minister Lamola, in the House and is recorded in Hansard. That is, can be found at EFF Annexure 6, which runs on to 2 volumes, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll take the court there in due course. And effectively what Minister Lamola's reasons are is that the panel misconstrued the threshold it had to apply. And he, and developed by our learned friends for the ANC in argument, seek to draw this distinction between sufficient evidence, sufficient information, and prima facie evidence for the purposes of an impeachment motion.
All right, Maloko, give us a sense of how the EFF argument was met by lawyers for the respondents, the ANC and the president himself.
Indeed. I will just perhaps, for the sake of time, limit this to what the president's lawyer has said. He firstly is saying that this particular application by the economic freedom fighters has passed its time. It actually emerged in court that the EFF launched this particular application 14 months later. And the justices of the Constitutional Court have repeatedly asked the lawyers of the EFF to justify why they should not be dismissed purely on that basis, because they have not explained in their papers as to why they must be given condonation in terms of them filing their application.
It's bad, man. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. The president of this country, man. Oof. And I remember people were saying that last week when I was doing those videos about Ramaphosa and his pathetic response to the spaza shops that are busy in selling contaminated food. People were saying that, Thomas, who can we replace Ramaphosa with? Who can we replace Ramaphosa with? If we get rid of the ANC in its entirety, which political party can we actually trust to govern this country? Which political party has the love for this country? And it had me thinking for some time. It had me thinking for some time. So this is a question to you guys. If we get rid of Ramaphosa, who should be the president of the country? If we get rid of Ramaphosa, who should be the president of the country? And does that person actually love South Africa to a point where you are feeling confident about him or her being the president of the country? If Ramaphosa gets out, who should be the president of the country? I don't want to think about the ANC. I think in 2027, they are going to get rid of Ramaphosa, and I think someone like Mbalula or will actually rise. But that is the ANC. But us as average South Africans, who would you actually prefer to be the president of the country if Ramaphosa no longer is the president of the country?
Application so late. But also, the president has argued that that particular decision of the National Assembly is actually not reviewable. And he has argued through his lawyer that the EFF essentially is arguing that National Assembly did not hold the president accountable. But in fact, according to the president's lawyer, the National Assembly did hold the president accountable. It is just that the EFF does not get satisfaction from the manner in which the National Assembly voted in that particular matter. Let's listen to the lawyer representing President Cyril Ramaphosa.
We see it all over the world. Dimension. And that is why it is appropriate for the National Assembly and not the courts to decide whether the president should be impeached, and that is why the constitution makers made that choice. They conferred the power on the National Assembly, a body composed of politicians. Now, there's a fine line to be drawn here. On the one hand, we know, and this court has told us, that if the politicians simply act on the dictates of their party leaders without applying their minds to their constitutional obligations, then they're not acting lawfully. We know if it can be shown that all that is happening is they're saying, what does the party say? Well, that's what I have to do, full stop. We know that that would be impermissible. But we also know at the other end of the spectrum that it is impossible when you're deciding on impeachment and when politicians are deciding on impeachment for political considerations not.
So the parliament actually...
It's been 40 years.
The parliament held the president accountable for actually refusing for the impeachment inquiry. This is what the lawyer of the president is actually saying.
To carry some weight. And the power is conferred by the Constitution on the politicians. Now, where that dividing line comes is a very difficult one to find. And it does come, one's assisted with it, Justice Tome, if there's some...
So this is what the lawyer of the president is saying, that no, the parliament actually held the president accountable. Do you believe that the parliament actually held the president accountable? What do you think? What do you think? And guys, do you think that the president actually has a case to answer for? Please tell me what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hit that like button, and the most important part, subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabaso. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.